Wonderful. Well, welcome to everybody. And as you pour in, just feel free to introduce yourself in the chat feature if you would like to. But I would like to welcome you all to the Come Up series, the Golang panel for our final cohort session for Women in Tech. So my name is Gina Winstead, and I'm the Vice President of Women in Tech Pittsburgh. If you don't know me yet, and Women in Tech Pittsburgh is a queer-led organization and a community of women and allies championing for the diversity and intersectional experience in technology. We're really aiming to create more equity and advocacy through digital literacy and autonomy, because we didn't see ourselves and each other present or represented in other tech communities around the region of Pittsburgh and beyond. So my good friend Allison Folk started the organization several years ago to create a space for us. And over the years, we've really evolved to become more than that, and we're contributing to the workforce development and professional advancement of women in tech. I also would like to go ahead and thank some of our sponsors for today. You'll meet some of them personally once we get started because they're going to be on our panel. So thank you so much to Singular and also to Shell Games and to Chariot Solutions. They all have current postings for jobs where they are seeking talent, specifically seeking diverse talent. And that's why we're here today, is really to make that connection. Also would love to thank some of our partners from the region, which include Mindera and Innovate Pittsburgh and the Allegheny Conference on Community Development. We have so appreciated all of your assistance, whether it's sharing the event or helping us to recruit more women, identified people for this program. So what are we going to talk about today? The reason we put this program together in this event is to connect our Golang mini academy cohort, as well as other women and professionals and recruiters and managers who can help to guide them through maximizing their resumes and experience after the Golang Academy, and making those connections for those of you who weren't a part of that academy going forward. So we want to help you and other women come up the ladder in their careers. Our guests will learn what companies are looking for and ways they can improve their resumes and portfolios. And we also want to reiterate the importance of specialized skills and training as a tool to elevate your salary and position in a company. We believe that learning is a continual equalizer for underrepresented folks, particularly for women in tech. And we want to build a network and share the resources that we've had the opportunity to have access to with a broader network of folks, and to really develop a sustainable career for the women in tech in Pittsburgh and beyond. The reason that we chose Golang, or the language of Go, is because it's one of the newest back-end programs that has been developed out of Google. It's an open source programming language which really helps women or companies in web and app development and cloud services and kernel development and in gaming. We see it a lot with banks. We see it a lot with big tech companies. So you're going to see it a lot as a recruiter and as a professional in this industry. It's the primary choice for new backend infrastructure, and it's really increasing in demand. We are noticing that jobs are on a steady rise for Golang, and engineers experienced in Go are receiving 9.2 interviews more while they're in the market for jobs, as opposed to those without the skill. So with it being backed by Google, and it also helped us to develop Google Earth and Google Chrome, it's a really great skill that we think will help take women and other underrepresented folks to the next level in their career, get them from that junior position up to the senior position, and that's really what Women in Tech is all about. So I also would love to pass on to Allison Folk, our president, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about the rest of our Come Up series.
Hi, everybody. I'm Allison, or Al. I want to introduce you to our first launch of the Academy and our mini Academy and our Come Up series, which we have a lot more exciting mini academies planned in the future. So like Gina said, we chose Golang because it's an emerging technology, and we really want to focus on in-demand skills that we need bodies to fill. And one of our values at WIT is to make sure that we get people paid and we help them create generational wealth. And one of the ways to do that is to also help women move up in on the career ladder. So we noticed that within women in tech organizations, a lot of these activities focus simply on introductory skill sets. And so we want to kind of fill that gap to help them move up the ladder. I think we have mentioned earlier that this is called the missing rung theory. Is that right, Shawnee?
Broken rung, yeah.
Broken rung theory. So we're gonna fix the rung, and we're gonna help people come up. And so, because research shows that just women can learn better together, we wanted to create that safe space for people to be able to work together more intimately and seek one-on-one help with the instructor and be able to ask questions in a comfortable environment. And so by doing so, we can help women increase their pay and put them in the spotlight to help them have access to opportunities where skill sets for emerging technologies are needed, as well as more advanced skill sets are needed to help them go from those entry level positions to mid and senior as well. And so by doing so, we're doing a lot of focus groups with companies to see what they need, as well as just our own personal research to see like what's going to be in demand in the future and what's in demand right now.
Thank you so much, Allison. And with that said, do you want to go over some of our feedback from our previous cohort, Allison?
Sure. So in our past cohort, we taught Python, PHP, UX, full stack, and front end development. And these are some of the testimonies from this program. And I believe some of those folks are here today in the room with us. So as you can see, a lot of them loved the holistic approach that we take with the majority of our programming, and making sure that this is a space where there are no questions that you may feel uncomfortable asking, and that you get to work alongside other people who are from the same background as you. And also just to make sure that like we're there for support in every step of the way. So a lot of the people said that, like, this is one of the best programs I've attended. Some folks have said like it was really difficult for them to attend physical boot camps or physical workshops because maybe they were the only person there that looked like them and they felt out of place, or it just wasn't accessible because they're living with a disability. And so we try to make sure that we can fill in all of these gaps with the work that we're doing here at WIT.
Definitely. And that's what we want to continue to be able to do, and to be able to provide these services to women in the Pittsburgh region and beyond. We are Women in Tech PGH, but we have expanded our reach. We have people from outside of the region joining us today on this call, and we have them joining us in our Golang mini camp. So because of the pandemic and really shifting to a virtual experience, we're able to reach a broader network and provide some of these mini camps to more people. And we want you to know that we have the opportunity to support your teams going forward, whether you would like to customize a workshop or a mini academy for your team. That's something that we can work with you directly on. And you can choose a topic, something that you are actively seeking many positions in within your company, and we can help you get those skilled employees, especially diverse talent, into your network and your talent pool. We know that gender diversity increases revenues by 15% alone, and that diversity drives innovation and creates solution. We also know there's a research study from Gartner that found that inclusive teams outperform other teams by 30%. And that 67% of workers nowadays are considering diversity when they're seeking employment. So what does that mean for you? It means that you need organizations to partner with, like Women in Tech Pittsburgh, so that you can further explore ways to reach new markets of employees and talent. We are actively seeking sponsors, and we're actively seeking more partners to work with us as we deliver more education to broader networks. So you can come in at any type of sponsorship level and we can customize something for you, or you could explore our supporting, entitle, and premier opportunities for sponsorship in the near future. But again, thank you to all of the sponsors that are joining us today. I'd love to turn over the handles to Shawnee. Shawnee is our COO here at Women in Tech Pittsburgh. She's been a wonder to work with and such a highly intelligent person, and is a boot camp graduate herself from one of Pittsburgh's local tech boot camps. So Shawnee, the floor is all yours.
Hello, hi everybody. It is Thursday. We're almost there. Look at my small talk. Okay, there was somebody who like talked recently about like eschewing small talk, and so I like that. So like let's just get to like the big talk, right? um my name is Shani Banerjee. I am CEO of WITPGH. I also am a developer. I went from actually being I probably have been your waitress, your bartender. I might have like yelled at you that like maybe like you've had one too many drinks. I'm not going to serve you. No, you can't have my phone number, things like that. And so it really drove me to actually get into customer support, which then led me to get into development. So that ladder, you might realize like you might just need like a tiny step stool sometimes, and then it, you know, becomes a ladder. And so that's kind of what I'm in the middle of experiencing now. So it's really great for me to be able to ask all of these questions to kind of understand what is it, like how do we kind of make it to that next step, and how do we really set ourselves up to make sure that you know, we will succeed in this process and learn from it as well. So I did get to also be a part of the Golang mini academy, and it was really exciting to be able to apply what I know now about development to a new language that was way tougher. I'm not gonna lie. So big thank you to Clavon Blair for his leadership and education and knowledge, and that we couldn't have done it without you. And to all the fellow participants, it was great meeting you. So I'm going to get right into it now. And so we're really lucky to have Chariot Solutions as our first a panel member, and that's Sujan Kapadia. And he's a director of consulting at Chariot. And so I want to welcome you. And if you'd like to give an introduction of yourself, a little bit of your history, how you got into where you are at your company, and then we'll get into some good questions.
Sure. Thank you for the introduction. Before I even start, I just want to thank you and WIT for all the work you guys are doing to kind of advance diversity and tech and diversity. First time I'm really learning about this, and this academy, it's fantastic. So looking forward to hearing more and more about this, and hopefully we see more of this kind of cross-pollination between Pittsburgh and Philly and stuff like that. So looking forward for the future here. So thank you. Sujan Kapadia, Director of Consulting at Chariot. I would have to say that my foray into technology is pretty bog standard and boring. You know, I kind of did comp sci, Penn State, started at Lockheed in defense for about 4 or 5 years doing Java work, then went into the finance world doing more Java work, and then finally came to Chariot Solutions, which is a consulting firm. And my first time was doing consulting. I had worked on product development for a long time. For those that don't know, there's kind of a lot of different roles and things to do in technology. You can work for a product firm and kind of be on one product and be with a team and kind of maybe bounce around different aspects of that product, or be at a larger company that works on a couple different products. Or you can be in consulting, where this kind of answers one of the first questions about what's really exciting about working at Chariot or being there is consulting. You get to work on a lot of different things and wear a lot of different hats. So what I find exciting about technology is you're using this really powerful tool, but that tool you can apply to anything. So if you look at everything you use now and everything you rely on from the moment you wake up to when you go to sleep, whether it's personal or personal consumption or healthcare or finance or whatever, entertainment, it all runs on software. So once you get into that and you get your foothold into it, you basically have access to a lot of different things. So I didn't really bounce around a lot between different industries. I stayed on the East Coast, generally worked for large companies for a large part of my career, and then shifted to a really small company at Chariot. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
That's awesome. And I think it's good to know, you know, I think those traditional, like more traditional paths are still options, right? Like, I don't think that traditional path can, you know, has to start at a specific age or anything. So I think, you know, I think we need to kind of shed a little bit of our preconceived notions of like what being a college student is, or what education is, or what, you know, your first job in tech is and when that is. So you can, you know, do a 4-year degree, or you can use skill sets you've had otherwise. And so I think that is kind of a great lead up to Our next question in terms of your company and also just kind of what you look for in terms of hiring, if you're a part of the interview process, what strengths do you think are most important for a developer, either at a position in your company or especially for like newer hires? How are you kind of gauging that, and what are you looking for?
The biggest thing we look for is just an attitude, right? An attitude to want to learn, want to solve challenges. There's a lot of challenges in technology and there's ups and downs, but it's really rewarding. So we look for folks that don't mind working in those challenges. Consulting is a little bit different because you're working for a client. So it's a little more higher pressure because you're constantly, you're the service provider and the client is the person you're providing the service to. So we look for folks that are okay with communication and okay with doing technology at the same time. So technology is not about sitting in front of a computer and talking to your compiler and writing code, right? That's definitely one part of it, and your compiler has to understand what you do. And yes, a lot of your day you may be communicating and banging your fist at the computer, but at the same time, the other, I would say 150% of it is speaking with other human beings and communicating with them and understanding their needs. And that's not something I realized early on in my career. That's something that took me like almost a decade to understand, like empathy-driven design, empathy-driven development. And that's so important. So we look for folks that are not only willing to learn, willing to try out different things. They don't want to only learn one thing and stick on that forever. They like having diverse talents and just trying different things. But at the same time, they like interacting with other people and they like communicating. They like understanding the customer's needs and like actually putting themselves in their shoes and understanding their pain points. So we look for folks that have empathy and that are willing to learn.
That's awesome. I think that's very relatable as well, because I think, especially as I think that tends to be kind of looked at as a soft skill. And oftentimes, I mean, this might be slightly anecdotal, but I think women tend to feel that they, have these soft skills that they kind of excel at, but might not be, what to really put front and center on your resume, say, or how to qualify that. So do you have any suggestions on kind of how to qualify that, and how women are really an important part of that structure at your company?
Yeah, so one thing we do, I feel unique in our interview process at Cherry is, other than just a code test and a technical phone screen, we have what's called a mock consulting scenario, where the person comes in and we pretend like we're the customer. And we say, hey, like we're a bank, ABC, some Smallville bank or whatever, and we have this problem and we want to become online, for example. And we basically ask them, we give them our problem. We let them ask a lot of questions as if they're the consulting firm and we're the client. So the first half of the scenario is ask us questions, just gather information. And you learn a lot about someone when you hear the kind of questions they ask, kind of reactions they have, and what they want to learn about that problem and how keen they are about learning about it. And then the other half of it is turning the tables around and saying, okay, now you're back at Chariot and you are the consultant. You're talking to your team at Chariot and saying, here, this is what I learned. Now let's come up with a solution for this problem. Like, how are we going to do this? What kind of project are we going to pitch? So that's not coding. That's not really whiteboard coding or anything like that. We don't believe in that. That's a lot of interaction, a lot of like drawing diagrams, just talking to each other. Like, we do have a code test and we have folks do that first. So it's important that they can understand and code and have a language that they're strong in. But at the same time, like seeing what they ask, how they break down a problem, that's really important. And I don't see that at many other companies I've interviewed at or other consulting firms. So I think that helps us understand kind of what you were touching on, Shani, about like the empathy and their ability to communicate, right? So that I would say, give equal weight to, as well as the tech part.
That's awesome. I'm going to go just like a minute over. Gina, I know you're about to like give me the flag, but I do want to touch on Go, since you guys are actually hiring for Go. And so if you could just kind of tell me a little bit about when you really saw that that uptick in utilizing Golang, and honestly, how many people apply to those jobs, and really what separates them from being able to really achieve that position and get through that interview versus not? What are you looking for there?
Okay, so I'll start with the first part. So, I mean, Go's been around for quite a long time now, and it's been a mature language and ecosystem, but it was really relegated mainly to like a lot of networking infrastructure and low-level systems code. And over time, that kept growing and growing. And because Go is really good with high concurrency software just because it has channels and things like that. You see it a lot more now with networking software, with microservices. So people are building a lot of glue code to connect between different components with Go. So we see a lot of that now, much more than even 5 years ago. You also see it's always been kind of prevalent in the DevOps world. So you see a lot of Go in DevOps. And you also see it in blockchain and smart contracts. So although Cherry hasn't done too much there, we have some clients that do that, and we've dabbled here and there with Go and blockchain. So I think that answers the first part. And then what we're looking for is, since for a lot of folks, we look for two candidates. So there's Go candidates that have been doing it for a long time. And we try to hire folks, like I said earlier, that have the empathy and the drive to learn. But depending on the projects that we're kind of in our pipeline and who we're looking for at the time, sometimes you need someone with a lot of experience. Sometimes we have team projects that are perfect where we can hire someone with less experience and mentor them, and they can learn on the job and through bench projects and stuff. So our code test we get an idea of where they are between the phone screen, the code test, and the mock consulting scenario. And then I think most of our clients are pretty lenient because Go is so new when it comes to just like normal everyday. Like it used to be very niche, and now it's not. Now, like you hear everyone talk, like, this group is talking about Go, for example. Like 5 years ago, I don't think that would have been a thing. You're hearing colleges and universities talk about it. So I think one unique thing about Go versus other languages is we do look for folks that can understand kind of the concurrency aspects of it. And that does require some kind of like heavy understanding of how a computer works, right? How processors work and how code hits the metal. So if we can find folks that have at least an interest in learning that and kind of peeling the layers and looking under the hood, that's kind of, I didn't mention that earlier, but folks that like peeking under the hood, we love that. So if you show that you want to do that and you don't mind getting your hands dirty and understand, like, okay, I wrote this, compiled down to something, but like, why does it behave that way? Why does it perform that way? Let me debug it and understand it better. That we really put a lot of value in that.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. I think that gives us a lot to work with. There's some great vocab words in there for everybody. If you haven't learned about concurrency, now's the time. Get on it. Okay, well, we will come back and ask some more questions at the end, but I just want to say thank you. And we're going to go ahead and move on and speak with Marcela Navarro, who is a senior talent specialist at Singular. If you want to say hello and introduce yourself a little bit.
Hi, everybody. My name is Marcela Navarro, as Ray mentioned. I'm a senior talent specialist at Singular. We are a technology-oriented company. We offer different solutions to our client, all regarding to technology. I have more than 10 years of experience recruiting IT talent, so I've been in the industry for quite a long time.
That's wonderful. So Marcela, in terms of, so if you could tell us where you're located first, because I think that's very exciting. So we've already like touched like the Philly, like we got the Philly connection with Pennsylvania pride here, but you're a little bit further south right now.
For sure. I'm located currently in Mexico, so I'm working from home. Our major offices are located in US, and actually we have offices all around the globe. We have offices in Europe, United States, Mexico, Latin America, Middle East, and also in Singapore. So all of our teams are connected and we can work from wherever we are mostly.
That's awesome. And so I think that is actually something that's really, especially when I'm speaking to a lot of women, especially, mothers, people who need a bit more flexible schedule. That is definitely something that has come up a lot. So in terms of in terms of your company, what would you say that you're kind of looking for in terms of that diversity and, in giving people that opportunity to work remotely? How do you negotiate that? How do you have that trust? How do you build that?
Well, for us, the first thing that we look for in a person is the talent. So whatever the talent is, we will look for it. It doesn't matter where the person comes from or where the person situation is. Currently, as long as the person has a talent, we adjust to that. So that's really first we look for the people who that is suitable for our positions, and if they have the talent, we can adjust to that, and we can bring solutions or work in a as long as our client allow that type of flexibility, we are okay with that.
That's wonderful. And I think because, you know, you're really focused on hiring here in your role, I would love to hear more about what kind of advice you might give to women who are maybe earlier in their careers. If somebody did go to a boot camp or, you know, are looking to career switch, or if they're just coming out of school, or if they're, you know, just learning a new technology and kind of pushing into those junior positions and then wanting to push further into that. What does that career ladder kind of look like, and how do you gauge that, and like what would you suggest for people's resumes to really focus on and prepare to catch your eye?
For sure. I mean, we encounter many people who is like in a career change or going out of a recent academy or something with particular circumstances. What I would advise would be you know, try an interview as many times as you can. Sometimes interviews are hard, but that will give you a lot of feedback technologically on what would you need to be better, you know, or what your particular goal company is looking for, so you can be prepared for that. Put yourself out there. I mean, this sounds like a dating advice, but like, you know, it's more of a company wise. I mean, if you have a target of what type of companies or industries would you like to work in, follow them around in LinkedIn, look for what the industry is looking for, what type of technologies are these companies hiring, and what type of technologies these companies are looking for, and be prepared for that. Like, for example, if you are studying Java, you know, you will be required to learn to know also Spring. So, you know, just go along the technology trend and be prepared to interview and to study a little bit more, so the company take a look on you. I mean, starting will be hard, but eventually, if you are passionate enough and you like show that to someone, someone will give you an opportunity.
That's awesome. In terms of the roles that you're hiring for now and kind of in the next 12 months, so what do you have coming up that's like available? And also, yeah, I mean, let's just straight up ask the question, like, when you see a resume, what pops out at you? Is it like, because I think it even comes down to like, how is it formatted, right? Like, what information is popping out to you first? Because I've heard that most recruiters only look at a resume for about 2 minutes. Is that true?
I mean, in a
Like
particular technology, yeah, I mean, you're looking for like what fits more to the position that you're looking for.
Gotcha.
I mean, sometimes it's the formatting. I mean, there are like really innovative resumes that are out there, but I mean, usually what works is just the, you know, the usual, just like the plain black and white resume. So what we look for is that you list all your responsibilities and technologies like really listed on the resume. And that you stand up for the technologies that you're looking for. You know, like if you work on .NET like 10 years ago, but you are not working on that recently, that's something that is not, I mean, it's good to have it there, but like probably in the back, but not something that will improve your career right now. I mean, if you're looking for another type of position, just if it's really detailed, and if the skills, the technological skills are like really detailed there, it's easier for us just, you know, to pick up a resume on what you want to work and just to match you with the position.
That's good to know. So, so even sometimes it's like leading with your interests first, because and I think that's something that a lot of folks have come to me about recently, is that they'll be interested in a position, but they're not necessarily sold on it. I think they want their foot in the door, maybe. And so, what I've really been encouraging people to do is like really focus on what you know, what technology do you really want to work in? What do you like? Sure. And really focus on that. And so would you say that that's a pretty good way to like hone in on your skills? And then I think you have some slides as well. Is that correct, Marcela? I want to make sure that we can get to those too.
Yeah, I mean, the slides are regarding singular, so I'm okay with either showing that or not. I mean, I'm already explaining about that already. So regarding your question, yes, yeah. I mean, I will advise to follow the trend on the technology that you want to work, and also the industry. I mean, industries are so different. Like, for example, the financial is so different, for example, for the game industry. So, for example, what works for some won't work for another one. So I think it's just like try to follow the trend that you want and adapt your likes to that.
That's awesome. And then, yeah, as far as like the trends that you're seeing in terms of technologies that you're hiring for, and even industries that you're hiring for, what would you tell, like if folks here were like, okay, I'm leaving this panel and I'm going to apply, what can they expect to see?
I mean, microservices is getting huge now. Of course, open source technologies are the way to go right now. Things that conventional programming languages that we see 2 years ago are becoming obsolete. You know, newer technologies, newer frameworks. It's just, I will advise just to see what you want to do and just keep improving on the new trends that are coming.
Awesome. And what questions, I like this one a lot. What questions do tech recruiters love to ask? So once, you know, say they do catch your attention with the resume, what are the first things you're really going to talk to them about? And how can somebody prepare themselves for that kind of initial interview?
Yeah, so I mean, the first thing is to see if the person is a match. You know, regarding the technology that we're looking for, the responsibilities that they're currently doing. What I always love to ask is what do they expect for their new change? I mean, they are looking for a new opportunity for a reason. So I want to know that. And if we can meet that expectation, you know, some people is looking for more time for the families and like have a work-life balance. Some people is looking for more technological challenge. So that allows me to give that candidate a real situation on, you know what, from these expectations, we can meet them all, or this we cannot do, or this you can do it, but probably in 2 years if you stay with us working like that. So that is something that gives me a good sense of what the candidate is looking, if we as a company are going to be a good match, you know, and just give that person the opportunity to see also who we are.
That's wonderful. And actually, I think that's a great segue if you would like to show your slides, because I think it would be great for people to be able to learn a little bit more about Singular and your presence in Pittsburgh as well and the region.
Of course, just give me a second and I can share my screen so we can, just let me figure this something out.
I know it's always, with Zoom, I feel like it's always trying to fight me. It's like, it feels confrontational.
Yeah. So let me see if you can, let me know if you can see my my screen.
Yep, we're good.
Okay, just let me see how to present here.
I don't think my Spanish is good enough to point it out.
Top right corner. Yeah. Top right corner, you have Presentar if you want to hit.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. Okay. Okay, so I'm representing Singular right now. We are a company. We are a company of digital experts, and together we will solve the challenges of our business. That's I mean, we are oriented to technology. We are experts. We are not gonna tell our client what to do, but we are gonna do the solution better. You know, so that's why I was referring. We find the talent that we need, so we can do the solutions better for our clients. We have different clients around the globe in different industries, particularly in this continent. The majority of our clients are more oriented to financial services. As I already mentioned, we have offices around the globe. We have offices in Spain, United States, Mexico, Latin America, and also Singapore and Middle East. Okay. This is the same, the type of or where our offices are located. We have all these offices in these countries, and as I mentioned, our oriented line of business here would be with finance. The majority of our clients are oriented to that, not limited, because we do have another. And the majority of the technologies that we are currently working on is backend with Java microservices, frontend with Angular, and we are working also with DevOps technologies. I mean, we're working with AWS, Docker, and we're also starting to have a lot of trends with Kafka and you know, newer technologies. We also have positions in Node. Sometimes we have positions, and we are starting to see some clients requiring also Golang as a new technology for us.
That's awesome. And then I'm going to ask you one more question while we're talking about that is, in terms of the non-technical roles that are still technical adjacent. So we need project managers still, we need product managers, we need,
Right.
are those also roles that you guys are hiring for?
For sure, we have project managers, Scrum masters, business analysts. I mean, that they are not quite so far from technology. They understand something better than I do, probably. But yeah, we do have those type of roles also in there.
Awesome. And so definitely I heard Scrum. So the agile methodology is something that
For
if
sure,
you don't know
yeah.
it, so that's going to be that's another vocab word. So you got concurrency and agile, Scrum for the non-technical. Awesome. Yeah. And so this is the innovation platform. If you could like walk us through that.
So these are the tech competencies that we are currently working in all of our hubs. I mean, as I mentioned, we have cloud DevOps solutions, Salesforce, e-commerce, Internet of Things, data science, user experience, software development, artificial intelligence, you know, VR, new interface. I mean, we kind of cover like all of the industries or all the trends also. It depends on the project and depends on the city that we are, but we have all this. Type of solutions. As you can see, also Agile, it's a big part of our core company. So Agile, Scrum, it's how we run. Okay.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Awesome. So yeah, all of the questions that you guys are asking in the chat, we will circle back around and kind of ask these questions to you know, once we continue. So this is wonderful. Thank you so much, Marcela. That was super informative. I'm excited to learn more. Sure. Awesome. And so we're gonna just keep scooting along here. And we're going to be talking to Lauren Reed, who's the Senior Director of Human Resources at Pittsburgh's very own Shell Games. Shell is like one of my favorite companies to just having seen it grow. So welcome. If you could tell us a little bit about your journey at Shell.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's one of my favorite companies too. I've been there for going on 7 years now, which is wild. It's been the longest I've ever worked anywhere. It's been my favorite place I've ever worked. Prior to working at Shell, I worked at a previous tech company in recruiting and HR. So I've been in tech for about 10 years now. And it's a very exciting field. And gaming in particular is a lot of fun. We are a 135 person company based in the south side of Pittsburgh. We were about 85 when I started. So we've had good sustainable growth over those years. We are very unique in the games industry for not having had any layoffs in the 20 years we've been in business. So it's a very stable company combined with innovation and growth. So that's something that we have going for us when we're talking to people that are very familiar from the churn and burn and turnover that is unfortunately a hallmark of our industry.
Yeah, gaming is, you know, I think, especially when we're talking about women and gaming, I think we just have to be really honest about what we've seen kind of as the macro trend. And I think that's what makes Shell so unique, is that it has always been, I think, a real leader in creating space for women and being diverse. So I always really admired that. And do you have slides that you'd like to show to introduce us to some of that?
Yes, I do. Okay, can everyone see that? Okay, I also really enjoy the bright colors of Women in Tech Pittsburgh, because we obviously have bright colors at Shell Games. So that's a little bit about my bio. A big part of my passion is just supporting people and having a recruiting role for so long. That's the core competency. I was not in tech. I didn't go for a business degree. I was an English major. The thing I think that serves me well from my liberal arts degree is communication skills and soft skills. So those are very important, as we've all mentioned tonight in a career in tech. And really at this level of my career, I really enjoy the strategic planning and organizational development, and really shaping and helping to safeguard that culture that we have a reputation for. Every person that we add is an addition to our culture, and they're responsible for protecting and maintaining the inclusive environment that we strive for. And that's something that we look for a lot in our hiring process. As a studio, we're full service game design and development. We have artists, designers, programmers, producers. We do everything from concept ideation to execution. So if clients are wanting to just bring us some cool new tech platform and say, hey, we need to figure out how to make this fun, we are told that you're the ones to do it. And in particular, we do that a lot with virtual reality, but we do everything from location-based experiences to web apps to browser-based games. So we really look for flexibility when people are joining our company, and that tinkerer mentality and being curious and learning agility. We're one of the top 10 virtual reality studios in the world. We have award-winning games, both on the entertainment and education side, because those are both an area of focus for us. But I Expect You to Die, it's a James Bond themed escape the room puzzle game, and it's in VR. And we have the sequel coming out August 24th. So we shipped the first one in 2016, and it's done really well, especially with the advent of the Quest 2 being a wireless platform that's pretty accessible and has a much lower price point than some of the early adoption methods of VR. And I think we've had really big success recently with people playing the original game and that are really excited for the second one. Until You Fall is a very neon colored sword fighting melee combat experience. So it's very different from I Expect You to Die. It's much more action oriented, whereas I Expect You to Die was on the forefront of VR when there wasn't hand tracking. You had to sit still at a desk. The eye tracking wasn't really quite there yet. So you can see how the gameplay has developed as the technology has developed over the years. HoloLab Champions, you're able to be part of a game show and get familiar with chemistry equipment. And then History Maker VR, it teaches kids how to build their public speaking skills in a VR space as they're playing historical characters. So we do, and Water Bears VR, it's a systems puzzle game where you're connecting tubes to make sure that the water bears are not dehydrated. You're getting different colored water. So that's the puzzle element. You have to match the colors to the different water bears, which in real life look like nightmare fuel. They are terrifying. But if you've seen Ant-Man, they're really bad. But they're hardy, and that's why we've sent them to space. But we definitely took a different artistic route with that and made them really cute. But all of these things, they're very different types of experiences, and that's because of the amazing designers and developers that we have in our studio and just the creative vision that they have. Our mission statement is to create experiences we're proud of with people we like in order to make the world a better place. So all of these experiences have that in mind when we're developing them. And we value diversity in so many forms because it makes us stronger as a company and helps us to foster inclusion both in our industry and in our Pittsburgh community. These are the positions that we're currently looking for. Our Shell Games careers page has a lot of info about our benefits and culture as well, and they're all listed there. And Mike Jeter is our talent acquisition specialist, who is the point person for recruitment at Shell Games, and careers at shellgames.com gets to both he and I. So that's a little bit about us.
That is awesome. That is so much. I'm like gonna go out and play a bunch of games. Never see me again.
Yeah, it's a super fun place to work.
I think that, so obviously you have really spoken a lot about VR, which I think is still a little bit, I think, I feel like it's still not quite ubiquitous. And so for developers now, like starting to get into that. So I think really seasoned developers as well. I think this like speaks to that mid-career point. I've just been in web development. Say I want to move into VR and I want to apply to one of these roles. What would you say I do?
That's a great question. For us, a lot of our experiences, almost all of them are developed in game engines. So Unreal Engine 4 and now 5 is out, and then Unity 3D. Those are big platforms with a C++ and C# base code language, respectively. So having familiarity, and there's a lot of tools that are available now to get familiar with, and tutorials out there to get familiar with game engines. And that's primarily what we use to develop our virtual reality experiences in. But the things that are more agnostic to virtual reality development or regards to code is understanding that the best way to play test your experience versus just building it out in virtual reality is just to use the dimensions that you have in real space, in reality. The best analogy for virtual reality is reality. And so what we've learned is to mock up an experience that we're developing with cardboard and play test how you move within the space, because it is very immersive. So there's a lot of things you can learn that are with rapid prototyping and figuring out ways even outside of the technology stack that we use to learn lessons in VR.
That's so fascinating, because there's like an accessibility factor there that I think people don't realize. Like, you just hear VR and you're like, I'm scared.
Yeah.
You know, like, I'll be real. So that's really wonderful to ground it, I guess, in reality. Given the shifts that have kind of happened with, you know, obviously we heard about Gamergate, like there's a lot of I think the floor is lava in terms of the game industry. So how do you encourage women to kind of maybe like put down their defenses a little bit and engage with this, and to engage with these roles that you have? How are you guys building that in your company?
It's a great question. I think one of the biggest ways is representation and leadership. That's a big thing for us. Whether you're in the majority demographic or not, understanding and listening and having that perspective of historically marginalized voices, that's a really big thing for us. We've done a lot of training. We have done a lot of perspective taking to help people feel more comfortable in a space that maybe the default wasn't meant or designed for them, and figuring out what ways, where are the barriers, doing assessments, partnering with organizations like Vibrant Pittsburgh to do a diagnostic, and figuring out where are ways that we can improve. So there's a lot of things that we proactively do, and then figuring out, looking at all of our systems, so our hiring system, our promotion system, the processes in place, and how we can mitigate bias at every level of the organization, where people, and understand that every individual person is responsible for understanding their own biases and how it can be at play in those processes.
That I think that's a great segue into the salary negotiation question, which I really like. And I think I really want these difficult questions, honestly, for a lot of women when they're moving up through the field. So dealing with things like gatekeeping, mentorship, and salary negotiations. So do you have any advice in terms of getting a mentor, and then asking for that, for what you think you're worth, and being able to gauge what is that worth? Because I think that's the other thing, is that we're like afraid to actually ask for a certain amount of money because we're afraid that we won't get the interview if we ask for too much. It's wild. Whereas a lot of the time men will just be like, I'm going to ask for the craziest number I've ever heard, and they'll just go for it. So have you seen that, or like how do you work with that?
Yeah, so two parts there. Mentoring, first of all, you don't have to wait until you're in an organization to find a mentor. And I highly recommend figuring out the different areas of your professional career that you'd like somebody to speak into, because it's unlikely that you're going to find one person that is your exact carbon copy, because we are all unique individuals. And so figuring out people that can represent one slice of that personal and professional experience, and that you can kind of build a quilt and a board, I've heard it called a personal board of people, because they're not exactly like you one for one, they can help you offset your blind spots. So everyone has them. And if you're talking to people that you trust, it's also less to ask of an individual person if you're distributing that responsibility and that feedback across multiple individuals. So you building your board of individuals that can help you in your career, then you could have somebody when you get to a situation where you're looking at an opportunity and saying, okay, how do I approach this? I think there's been a lot of conversation about this in tech. And I do, from a hiring manager perspective, I am finding people being braver through that negotiation and that salary discussion. It's also weird. It's also uncomfortable for people. I mean, there's a lot of taboo trappings around having salary discussions. So my recommendation would be know your worth, and do your research on the organization and the position that you're looking for. So that's part one, is doing your research on the organization. See what you can find. It's hard to get good info out there. One thing I do always recommend is take into account cost of living of where you're looking. It's very different, and right now we're in a remote world. That may not be the case in the near future for every company. So, and companies all over the world are trying to grapple with, okay, how do we pay in markets where people have moved to? So figuring out cost of living, CNN Money and NerdWallet, those are good resources to compare cost of living across different areas. And then for yourself, going in and having a range in mind that, and then plussing it and then not being afraid. So be prepared going into that conversation. Ask them what the range is for the position. They may turn it back on you and ask what you're looking for and to target. Don't be afraid to say more. That gives the opportunity of that person in that hiring manager position to say, actually, that's above our range. And if it's a situation where you feel like you're not being paid fairly, you have the option to walk away at that point. And maybe it's not a company that's the right fit for you, and maybe they're not valuing you in the way that you want them to be. And there could be a lot of reasons for that. And there's a lot of nuances to that conversation. So there's some element where you have to rely on your gut and your own instincts in that conversation. And if you feel like they're being transparent about it, then that's a different situation. And they're saying, look, this is where we are. This is a tough budget. But this is what we tell every candidate versus, oh, we're just telling you this range because of X, Y, and Z thing that's specific to you.
That's really excellent. I think that's all really, really wonderful advice. So I'm actually going to jump into a few questions that are just kind of like overall for all the panel members, if you want to just like pick up one of them, and then we'll get to those questions that our audience has asked. So one, I think that's really great is, you know, for WITPGH, it's creating equity, right? That is we want generational wealth for people. So when you support women of color, you're going to see the entire ecosystem grow and come up, because then also their children are going to be taken care of. And they're also going to have the skill sets and access then to have fruitful careers thereafter. So I guess in terms of what are your companies doing to really create programming because we're obviously seeing that it's not going to just happen organically. So what are you doing to kind of take the reins and change that?
Is this for all
I guess
panelists?
I'll start.
Yeah, well, anybody can, any of you can
Sure.
take that one.
So one of the things we're doing is a little bit of a different strategy. It's not really a strategy for Chariot, but it's a strategy for the community. We're big in being in the community building. So Tech Girls, Tracy Wilson-Rossman, Chariot, who's heavily involved kind of in women in tech and Tech Girls. And that kind of takes female students like in middle school, high school, and teaching them programming skills and giving them projects and classes and hacking and things like that. So kind of starting grassroots in the Philadelphia community and surrounding suburbs, and getting kids interested in, particularly girls interested in STEM, and kind of staying involved with them throughout the process, throughout middle school, throughout high school, throughout college. So we feel that's one strategy, again, not for Chariot, but just in the community in general. And then another way is kind of through hackathons and through a lot of local events. So hackathons are open to anyone. There's not like any barrier. There's not like, okay, you're going to get phone screened, you're going to get text screened. It's like, if you're interested, you have an idea, roll up your sleeves and hack at it. So we feel like those kind of open environments where anyone is welcome, where people don't have to feel nervous, they don't have to feel like anyone's watching them. Like, I think someone made a comment earlier about, you know, just being nervous, being around others that are not like you or don't look like you, so you kind of feel singled out. You know, there's a real fear and anxiety around that. So I think open events where the focus is not what do you know, what your experience is one way to approach it. And then the other way is you got to plant these seeds earlier. Like, if you're looking at it like folks that are out of a boot camp or out of college or in their 20s or 30s or even like post-career, like that's great and all, but I think if we want to make changes for the next 20, 30, 40 years, we got to start young and plant those seeds like from elementary and middle school and kind of stay on with that throughout.
In terms of investment, absolutely. And so I would say then to Marcella and Lauren, what kind of advice would you have for women who are you know, in that career changing space, or are going into junior roles in tech? And so, because I saw like an associate role, I think up for Shell Games as a fellowship. And then Marcella, would you say you guys have any more kind of entry level or junior roles that you're hiring for? And what would you suggest for women to do to try to apply to these?
I mean, we don't always have like junior positions or that type of roles, but what we do is if we see potential in someone, I mean, it happens to me that someone is really young, but you know, when you do the first interview, this person is passionate about, this is something that they really want to do. And then we can talk to a client like, you know what, this is not the level that you want, but this person has a lot of potential, and we know that this person can learn, we know this person can grow. So that's how we are creating opportunities for this type of people who is just starting or just making a career change and just, you know, trying to give them opportunity. And also like you know, take the challenge. I mean, apply to the positions, do the interviews, I think that's the important thing. Sometimes you are just used to a lot of your current position and your board, but you don't dare to do the change because of the rejection that you may have. But there's the companies are changing and they are looking for talent anyway. So I think if you dare to do it and you're really passionate about it and you know what you want, you will find a company who bet on you.
That's awesome. So I think we have some audience questions that I do want to get to right now. And so I think this one is to Sujan and Marcella. So what percentage of people in your companies are women actually? And actually I would ask Lauren that as well. What are the numbers, folks?
Sure, I can start. It's admittedly very low. It's only 10% right now. That's certainly been a big challenge, women and diversity in general. So one of the big things, there was, I think, a question later on like about biases and how you kind of deal with that. So one thing I'm a big fan of is when you're looking at a resume, I try to redact it before I look at it. I don't care about the name. I don't care about the school. I don't care about the company names they worked for. I don't care about where they're from or their background. There's so many subconscious biases that come into play when you see that in a resume and you're scanning that affect how you interpret the rest of the resume. So a big thing is ignore all that. Just look at what they're interested in, what their experience is, what they want to do, kind of what projects they've worked on. So I go right into that aspect of it. To me, that's like the biggest thing. So we only have 10%, but to get to 20, 30, we're going to have to continue more outreach, talking to more people, going to more events. And the flip side of that is, you know, to everyone here, is, you know, never give up and don't sell yourself short. Like tech is hard, but it's rewarding. Just have to keep trying. I think Marcella or someone made a comment about like doing a lot of interviews, which is a great point. Like, you know, getting more and more interviews under your belt, you're going to get more experience. You're going to get less nervous. Those first 5 or 10 are going to be like nerve wracking, nail biting. You're going to come out of an interview. I think one of my first, like after the interview, I puked. I'm not kidding. Like it just, you're so nervous. I had a massive headache. I was tired. And it was just like the worst experience of my life, but you just keep doing it and it becomes second nature after some point.
Yeah.
So mock interviews,
Yeah, Nixon
Yeah,
fingers
so
on the way
mock
out of
interviews
one.
are really, yeah. So mock interviewing is like an awesome thing to do. If you can find people, companies, like, you know, we do that with local boot camps, and I'm willing to do that with this group as well. Mock interviewing is great.
We're going to take you up on that.
Absolutely.
Lauren, I would ask that to you as well. And then also, I think this is a good question from Antonia, who was in our Golang cohort and has a really great background from like different aspects of, I think you're a neuropsychologist, I believe, Antonia. So do you also hire non-US citizen, non-residents? So probably more global economy kind of stuff as well.
Sorry, which question am I answering?
Sorry. So Lauren, if you could speak to that initial question of, I think it was, yeah. So what percentage of women do you have? And then kind of like, what are you doing to change that? And are all of you guys hiring non-US citizens as well?
So we are 28% female compared to the games industry average of 23%, but our hiring has actually been 47% in the last 2.5 years. So that's been a really big part of figuring out what structures are in place in our hiring process that we can make sure it's equitable across the board. And our leadership and senior leadership in the studio was 40%. So it's been a really great organization to open to figuring out ways to make that better, and the representation at all levels is really important too.
That's awesome.
And then we do hire international, typically if they're on an F1 visa as a student, that makes it easier just because to start the H-1B process, we typically don't know our needs that far in advance, and it can take a really long time. But if they have some sort of work authorization, we do support people through their entire immigration pipeline once they're here, including to permanent residency and citizenship if that's what they prefer.
That's excellent. Marcella, this question is for you. When you see a resume from someone changing industries into tech, what kind of information do you think is most helpful for them to highlight regarding past work experience in an unrelated field?
If it comes from a different industry or a thing that is not related to tech, you can probably point out the major things that you did there. You know, it probably doesn't have to do with technology, but probably on some leadership that you took or the responsibilities that you used to have in that position that can translate on something like, besides the technical that you are recently new to, on how would you present to a team, or how helpful would you be in a new team or in a new technological environment.
And then I'm seeing a question from Veronica is, do you have returnship programs? Veronica, would you want to speak to that? I don't think I've ever heard that actually.
Hi everyone. Well, women and technology, it's like complicated question. We have families, children, we have to raise them and take care of our family. Sometimes we take a break, right? So it's hard to re-enter technology area again. So my example, I've been out from IT technology for 8 years. So I went to boot camp, I did my best, but I'm still looking for a job. Am I wound or what's the issue? So yes, I know some companies have returnship programs. So my question, do you have returnship programs? So for us, for women to re-enter workforce and just to continue our career. So I'm an IT professional for 15 years. So then it was a nice break to take care of my family. Now it's kind of challenging time for me to re-enter workforce. So it was my question. Thank you.
Thanks, Veronica. That's great. Yeah, if anybody would like to take that, and then we're going to wrap up just shortly after.
We don't, but that's a great idea.
Yeah, I was thinking the same. I mean, I mean, I'm new to that terminology, but it's a great idea to have those kind of programs.
Yeah, one of the things that we focus on is having policies so women don't have to leave our company and our workforce. So returning is just after leave that they come back.
So I think, Veronica, I think that's something that we too, as advocates, as like our group with Women in Tech, that's something that I think we need to also start challenging more in terms of how we can, because obviously if you have a skill set and a background that's already couched in it, it's not that far to come back, right? But you definitely might need to just reach out a hand and help pull, right? Like that's the concept that we're really looking at there. So we will definitely continue to keep that in mind and work on advocacy there. That's really what our role is in this ecosystem. All right, so I am going to ask one last question, and it's going to be: is it okay for if people are interested in jobs that are on your board right now, is it okay for people to say, hey, I was in this I was in this workshop and I really liked what you had to say. Do you have a second to chat? And what's the best way basically to maybe have a little bit more one-on-one time question wise?
Yeah, definitely. careers@shellgames.com. It's the best way for us.
Escapati at
LinkedIn,
cherrysolutions.com. I'll put my email address, or how can we, do you have contact information for all of us that you'll be sending out, or how should we share it?
Yeah, we can follow up with that, with your contact info, and we'll also share some of the takeaways because you all left so many great nuggets of information for us to share with all of the women in tech community.
Awesome.
Yeah, Marcella, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, for sure. You can write us at people.usa@singular.com. And if it's not me, someone of my team will reach out to you. If we don't have a position right now, we still have a conversation with you and let you know what we may have soon or create something for you.
Awesome. Yeah, I think you're probably going to get some Golang grad emails soon. Here's hoping. And we really appreciate your time. We appreciate everybody who has been on this call and asked great questions. And if you want to reach out, and so Courtney Sage, who is our director of marketing, says on the Eventbrite page, there's a contact for each of you, so anyone can reach out. So thank you, Courtney, for being one step ahead of me. And yeah, thank you so much. And of course, you can always email Women in Tech Pittsburgh, ask questions. Sometimes the answers are not going to be the answer that you want to hear, but that's why we're here, is to help figure out how to answer it together, really. So just ask the question always, thank you so much. And yeah, we will see you hopefully with some new members of your workforce that we help to get to. Woo!
Yeah, thank you so much for your moderating this wonderful panel, Shawnee. It's been great. And thank you, and congrats to all of our grads from our mini academy of Golang. We are so proud of you all, and we know that you will go on to make us very proud, just like our Hacking Barriers to Entry graduates did. So thank you, and let's all stay connected. You can, like Shawnee said, reach out to us on our social media or via email at hi@witpgh.org. So we hope to see you all soon, and have a great evening.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Can you hit stop recording?